Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number 2, please.
Mr. Speaker, with permission, I will answer questions 2 and 5 together. Tackling violence against women and girls remains one of the government's top priorities. We're doing everything possible to make our streets and homes safer for women and girls. Since the launch of the Joint Action Plan, we've seen a significant increase in charge volumes for adult rape since January 2021.
Dr. Rupert.
I thank the Minister, but more than 1 in 9 rape prosecutions were dropped last year because victims withdrew their support, crushed by what can be a 3-year wait for their day in court and the humiliation of victim blaming. So will she fix these and accept the Joint Inspectorate's conclusions that the system's obviously failing rape victims when many find the legal process overlong and more harrowing than the original offence?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Honourable Lady for her interest in this matter. It's something that she and I have discussed for many years as colleagues on the Justice Select Committee. It is important that justice is given as speedily as possible. We know that. Digging into the attrition of victims in cases, particularly of rape, is very salutary and one of the reasons why the government has increased the money available to support victims by 4-fold in recent times. On the law tour next week, which is Solicitor General reference, we will be visiting an ISFA in Nottingham. And we know that where a victim has support, they are 50% less likely to withdraw from proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've heard from many women in my constituency who've been victims of domestic violence and abuse. They've reported it to the police, but they're still not getting the support or the justice they deserved. Rather than warm words, can the Attorney General explain why the number of charges for domestic abuse and violence has not just failed to keep pace with the rise in reported offences, but has gone so dramatically backwards?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her interest in this matter as well. And I think far more than warm words are being provided by the government. What we've been working on very closely is real joint working between the CPS and the police. We know that this has significantly increased the number of successful prosecutions in RASO cases. We're now rolling out a similar but not identical form of working in domestic abuse cases, and I think the Honourable Lady will be pleased to know that in her CPS area, the volume of adult rape suspects charged has gone up 41% in the last year.
Chair of the Select Committee's Robert Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Attorney agreed. It's important to remember that when there is sufficient evidence to put a case before a jury, the conviction rate for rapes and serious sexual offences is entirely consistent and on a par with that for other serious offences of violence. Isn't the real challenge to ensure that the file quality of evidence presented by the police to the Crown Prosecution Service is sufficient to bring charges in the first place? That's the issue that was highlighted in the Joint Inspection Report. Isn't that where we should be paying our most attention?
Attorney General.
Well, this is a Justice Select Committee alumni session, and it's always good to hear from our chair. He makes, of course, Mr. Speaker, as we would all expect, an important point. It is very true that if the CPS can only prosecute the cases that refer to them, they then work out which ones to prosecute using a 2-stage legal test. If you strip out the guilty pleas, they're running at a conviction rate of between 50 and 60%. They always prosecute where there's sufficient evidence, and it is in the public interest to do so.
Elaine Saxby.
Question 6, please, Mr. Speaker.
Standing on this one, you're standing before. Let's come to the Shadow Minister.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the Attorney has been discussing rape prosecution statistics, and I'd like to ask another question in relation to that, which is that the National World reported last month that there have been 1,600 cases over the past 5 years where a suspect accused of rape and investigated for rape ended up being charged with a lesser offence. Now, we all know that type of undercharging is